Hi, this is Mojdeh from Persian Awards, Java Parsi. I'm here with Councillor War 3, Joyt. I just wanted to make sure that I pronounce your name right. Gondek from Calgary. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And it's my honor to speak with you about Persian Awards and get your idea about the culture and art. If you can please introduce yourself for all of the audience that they are listening to you and watching you, that would be really appreciated. Please.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me on. My name is Jyoti Gondek. I'm the Ward 3 councillor in Calgary, and this is my first term as a member of council. I've been serving for just over 3.5 years. We have an election coming up in October. It has been a pleasure to serve the communities of North Central Calgary and be able to do things with members of the communities, like making our pedestrian crossing safer, expanding our local recreation center, just really making sure that our communities have all of the amenities that people are looking for. So that's how you find me with you today.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It's really important for us in Persian Awards to have all of the politician people and get the information and their ideas about awards, about community, about culture, and about art. My first question is, what is the importance of culture and art, or especially for new immigrant when they come to a new country?
That's an excellent question. I think one of the things that allows newcomers to stay connected with their home community is the idea of the music that we all remember, the films that we watch, the TV programs, the art. It's just a way to remember what our background was in our mother country. And so I think when you come to a new country and you're still able to experience those things, it's incredibly important. And I always use the example of my mom, who came to England and then Canada after having lived in India when she was younger. She said, anytime you hear music that's from India, or anytime you hear someone speaking Punjabi, she said it catches your ear and it makes you feel like something familiar is in this new place that you've come to. And I think really art is a way of capturing the history of people. And so I think that's why it's important to make sure that we remember the role of arts and culture as we are becoming a multicultural society, that we celebrate where people came from and the traditions that they bring here.
Great. Thank you so much for this beautiful answer. It's the importance of art and culture, especially for newcomers when they come to a new country. And what do you think, how can politicians like you support art and culture activities, especially?
That's another great question. I think it's a responsibility for us to make sure that we are funding arts-based programming and that we are recognizing the role that culture plays in helping newcomers settle in a new place. And as a municipal government, I think it's incredibly significant that we made an investment into our arts and culture community back in 2018 when we almost doubled the existing budget. And so I think we have made that budget commitment. Now what we need to do is make sure we're engaging with all of the communities that we can to ensure that your desires are also reflected in the arts and culture programming and vibrancy that we have in the city.
Great, great. And what do you think is the role and kind of like a connection between newcomers, immigrants, and the citizen who live in that new countries, not new countries, sorry.
That's okay. I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, I will give you my own example of when I was a kid. We had moved from England to Canada when I was 4 years old, and I grew up in a lot of places in Manitoba. And in Winnipeg, there was a few other Punjabi families, but when we moved from Winnipeg to Nipawin, there was none. And so I remember one of the highlights was when the local service organization invited my family to come and do a presentation about Indian culture. And I remember taking in a little model of the Taj Mahal. I remember Mom and I both wore Punjabi suits, and we went and talked to them about our background and culture in English, obviously, because they were English speakers. But It allowed us to make a connection and demonstrate how the things that look different really have a meaning to us that is the same as so many things that have meaning to people in Canada. And we were able to share the commonalities we had. And it was a wonderful experience. And I think that's just what we need to keep doing, is making sure that the people who live in this country that may not be familiar with the traditions of newcomers have the opportunity to ask questions and feel like they can be engaged.
Great. It's so interesting when you have the same experience as like you immigrants. It would be really like realistic when you are just talking about it, and it's just more kind of like you connected more with people who are just newcomers or immigrant. That's great. Councillor, how can immigrants grow in the new countries? Like they have the same activities, the same kind of like confidence in their culture and in their art in new countries. What is your idea about this? How can they just grow?
Speaking as a local government member, I think it's important for host cities to ensure that we provide a welcoming environment where we are able to help newcomers navigate the system, so that we're able to share with you which organizations could help you with employment or getting your kids enrolled for school or the services that are available for seniors. So all of those practical things that help you settle and build a new life in a new country, I think it's important for us to communicate those well. At the same time, I think it's significant to make sure that we are looking at the experiences, the background, and the credentials of our newcomers and understanding where we can best use them. So, I mean, there's so many immigrant serving organizations like the Calgary Immigrant Women's Association that do really great work, and the Center for Newcomers. And they're willing to embrace newcomers and understand who they are, and then figure out the best way that they can contribute back to the community. So I think it's about listening to people's experiences and understanding how they wish to play a role in a new place, and then encouraging them to do so.
Great. As I'm sure you know that there is a lot of like new immigrants in scientific and academic part of the country, especially in Canada. What is your idea about a politician person that they can just use all of these kind of knowledge when they are in academic or scientific, and they can grow in the same field and just find their way in the society?
Another excellent question. I've had the good fortune of having worked in the university before I became a counselor. And so I think it's incredibly important for local governments in particular to create strong ties with their research institutions. Because I think if we are partnering with our post-secondaries and understanding what's important to the people that work there and the type of work that academics are putting forward, and we can find a way for it to make our government more efficient and to serve our people, then we should have those ties and those bonds. Right now, the city of Calgary has a relationship with one of our post-secondaries, University of Calgary, and that formal relationship is called Urban Alliance. And so we do a lot of work through that partnership, but I would like to see it expand to all of our post-secondary organizations so we can better understand what research is being done, what does the data tell us, and how can we use it to improve people's lives?
So you believe that if they share the experience and all their activity, it would be better for them to just have more kind of connection and find their way in the society?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about having those connections. We've got, another example for you. We've got a woman named Jacqueline at Mount Royal University. She's a prof there, and she is trying to kickstart a program where she can help newcomer youth as well as visible minority youth play a role in community in a very meaningful way to bring about change and awareness of anti-racism goals and targets. And she's struggling a little bit because we're trying to figure out which organizations to connect her with to do this good work. So I think sometimes we have really good ideas, but the connections are missing. And I think that's where municipal government has a really good role to play. We can figure out which organizations that people should partner with to make sure that their work is reviewed and used.
Great. Great. So they can sometimes you have like they have the knowledge, they have the science, the academic, but the connection is missing. And you are telling us as a politician person, political, that you have a plan to just make sure that this connection is just there for them to find their way and grow in the society. That's great. That's a great news, I can say. So what do you think that what steps should an immigrant just taking scientific, economic, cultural, artistic development in the society? Because there's always step by step and they need to find a way. They are like, when they come, they're just confused that everything is new. So can you explain a little bit like what is the step by step that they need to just take in?
I think it's different for everybody. And I think it's different depending on the person who's coming here, whether you're coming with a large family or whether you're coming just as an individual. You may be somebody that's coming first and then your family will follow. You may be somebody that has contacts in the city already, or you may be somebody that has no connections and contacts at all. So I think it depends on the situation, but I would say that finding out which immigrant servicing organizations exist in a particular city is probably step one, because those folks will get you introduced to the types of things that you may not have considered. So you would need to apply for a health card and do all of these types of things. They'll help you navigate all of those things. They're also very good at sharing with you where the resources are. So if you're a newcomer and you haven't had a chance to establish yourself yet, and you're looking to rent a home or purchase a home, or you're looking for a job, they'll put you in touch with the organizations that can help you. And sometimes, you know, there's other places as well, like the Calgary Public Library, where there are so many different resources. And because we have such diversity of population in our city, you can usually find someone that speaks the language of the newcomer and really build a bond in that manner. So I would say, you know, before even coming here, just do some research in which organizations can help you and then connect with them as soon as you get here.
Great. That was a great advice. I can say that do the research, get the information. And then when you come here, you're not confused and you don't feel alone and you would like, what should I do? Thank you. So Councillor, how can the importance of cultural, artist and scientific awards in communities such as the Persian Awards help more cultural activities?
I think it would be a very good thing for the broader community to know that these types of awards exist. Sometimes it's that host community that understands that this is a program and it's an award opportunity, but I think the rest of us sometimes miss out on it. Sometimes it's because it's done in a very language specific way, and other times it's just not promoted on broader channels. So I would be very interested to see groups like yours reaching a broader audience so that we understand what you're doing, because I think it's incredibly significant that most of the time we connect with people through culture. We're always willing to try new food. We're always willing to look at new art. We're always interested in new fashion. I mean, those are the things that I think attract us to something that looks different or feels different or tastes different. And I think it's when you allow someone to come in and have that experience that they are then ready to open their mind to understand even more about a culture. So there's ways into different communities, and I think we need to use those.
Great. That was a great, I can say, welcoming to our Persian Awards to talk about it more and more and promote it more. What is your opinion as a politician about us? Like us, I mean, people like me that we are working volunteer in this kind of communities, in this awards, to show like everybody the culture, the art. And do you think that we are going to be a good feedback and we are going to be a good connection to show the culture and like art of Persian communities, I can say?
I think you're doing tremendous work. I think anytime anybody is a volunteer with a mission or a mandate to ensure that the broader community is understanding the successes of their particular group, I think that's always something that needs to be commended. And I think people forget that sometimes. I think they forget how much work it is to be a volunteer, especially a volunteer that is seeking out success stories and then, you know, putting them out to the public and recognizing the people that created those successes what you're trying to do is show Calgarians that there are many different types of Calgarians that make this city successful. And you're trying to highlight that you're doing it within arts and culture and sciences and so many of the other ways that we often recognize people. It's just a different awards program. And I think it's a very smart way to profile the community.
Great, great. And what is the role of the culture and art to empower the communications between immigrants and other citizens? Because you know that when, especially newcomers, they are coming and they are getting immigrants, it should be a connection between them. What is the role of it?
I think that's another wonderful question. I think the way that we connect communities and the way that we improve relationships is through this concept of communication, like you said. And sometimes it's just, hearing beautiful music or seeing a beautiful piece of art. It's that reaction that you have when your senses are heightened. I think you tend to pay more attention to something than if it's just words. And so I think it's always beautiful to put an image or a song in connection with the message that you're trying to bring forward. So I really like that approach. I think it's a smart way to communicate.
Great. As you know, that one of the best kind of empower the culture and art is just connect the two communities together, like Persian communities with other communities. What is your idea that what steps should be done to have this connection between other communities?
I think the step that you're taking in this type of a setting is a really interesting one, reaching out to members of council. I'm sure you're reaching out to other orders of government. Now you've put it on my radar that this exists. And so now I will be telling people that it exists. And I think that's the best way to make those connections. I think you're highlighting things that I didn't know anything about. And now that I know about them, it's on me to make sure that I spread the word to the broader public.
Great. And what is your idea about the role of local media to have this kind of like empower the culture and art from different communities? I'm talking about Persian communities because we are Persian awards, but what do you think about the role of local media?
I think the role of local media is often undervalued and it's overlooked. I can tell you that back in, I think it was 2012, might have been 2011, there was an opportunity in Calgary for, there was a bandwidth on FM radio for like a substation opportunity. And I don't know the technical words, so forgive me for that. But the CRTC came to Calgary to hold hearings, and they had presentations from different groups that were interested in occupying that bandwidth. And there was a lot of different ethnic media outlets that were interested in acquiring that bandwidth. And I remember presenting to that panel. I was nervous because I'd never done anything like this before. But I remember saying that, if you are going to be successful in helping people integrate into a new society, and I don't mean assimilate, I mean integrate. If you're going to help them be successful in getting jobs and, getting a home and sending their kids, through the education system, it's often important to make sure that language opportunities exist. And that's why, we, as a result of those hearings, Red FM came to Calgary. And Red FM has been a game changer for a lot of communities. Like I can tell you, I keep using examples of my mom because she's, she lives in my house, so she's a good example. She has often said that she's always enjoyed listening to the news, but the disconnect she had was when she listened to Punjabi programming, all of the news that was in Punjabi was about India. And all of the TV that she watched to get the local news was all in English. And she speaks both languages, it's no problem. But once she started getting her local news in Punjabi, it was a game changer. She said she felt more engaged and more part of the city. And she felt like, she could have good debates and conversations and feel like she was educated about the issues. So I think we really need to understand the role that media plays in making newcomers or even established immigrants feel like they're part of a society where they can also have their own language spoken to them to make them feel even more plugged in.
So what you're saying is, because especially newcomers, when they're coming from some places that they had the opportunity to go to movies, they're like financially, they had this opportunity to involve with the society. And now you're just giving the good news to them that it's better to establish in the new home as well, that they can just contribute more in like society by their own mother language. As your example was your mom, that she can speak in both languages. There's no kind of like a disconnection between the languages, but it's just different feeling when you talk in your mother language and you're involved the same. Thank you. That was really good for like even hearing from you, for me as well. Although that like language is not, there's no boundary in the languages, but it's better. Like sometimes it's just, you can just talk about your feeling in your mother language differently, I can say.
Yeah. And if I can add to that for just 1 minute, sometimes I have the opportunity to go on Punjabi radio, whether it's Red FM or it's Sangam, or, you know, there's other programs that will invite me on. Facebook Live is a big thing now that people are doing. It's just different when I'm able to speak to the Punjabi community in Punjabi. It's just different. They feel like they feel a different connection to me. And it's sometimes they'll say apni Jyoti. Apni means ours. And so then, you know, they feel like they're being represented by someone who is from their community. So I think it's really important that we understand the strength of language and language-based media.
Great. That was a really, really good kind of like, I can say that it's just welcoming and like warm our heart, that it's acknowledged that language is something that sometimes just give you hope, I can say, like you can just talk about your feeling. So, Councillor, what should be done to encourage the production companies to produce more kind of cultural and art products? Because we need these kind of like a production companies to involve to produce more kind of like a art and culture products. What should be done?
I think it's important to make sure that the ideas of local artists are heard, that the ideas of people who are in the creative sector from multicultural groups are able to communicate the significance of the things that they are doing. I had the pleasure of speaking with a woman who runs a business in town. She designs jewelry, and she is a member of the Indigenous community. And she spoke about how important it was for her to start her own company so that she could actually convey the meaning and the impact of the imagery that she was creating in the jewelry, because she found when it was being mass produced by people who didn't have her background, it wasn't sending the right message, and it wasn't the same culturally appropriate symbol that she would have been using. So I think it's important to make sure that our creative sector is well represented by the diverse population that is participating in it.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Councillor. Thank you so much for all of your beautiful answer and giving hope and energy to newcomers, immigrants, and Persian awards, especially to just promote more and talk about Persian awards and have more connection with other communities. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you would? No worries, no worries. Yeah, is there anything else that you would like to advise or suggest, or anything that you would like to talk about?
I completely interrupted you. Sorry about that. I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me. I feel more educated that I know about this, and I would just say to newcomers, especially Persian newcomers, you are very welcome in our city. You have a huge role to play. We don't know what you're going to do that's going to make this city even greater than it is, and I look forward to understanding more about the skills that you're bringing, the experiences that you're bringing, and the way you're going to shape our city into the future with all of us. I'm excited about doing this with you, because I think this city is an inclusive place, and our future is more progressive if we make sure that everyone feels they belong.
Thank you so much, Councillor, for your time and accepting our invitation. It was an honor to talking to you, and hopefully we will invite you to more events of Persian Awards, and we'll see you soon in kind of like events that it's going to represent for Persian Awards. Thank you, and thank you for all of the audience and whoever watching us. This is Mojdeh. I'm from Vancouver, and with a counselor from Calgary, who accepted our invitation. Hope you enjoyed the interview, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye. خیلی
Thank you.
ممنون. خدا نگهدار. Bye bye.